What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and today I've got another short story review for you guys, and I'm going to be talking about the fourth and final story in Stephen King's newest collection, If It Bleeds, the story titled Rat. Like the other videos in this series, this one will be full of spoilers for this story, so if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and step away. I am going to be doing a non-spoiler video of the collection as a whole. That'll be out sometime soon. Also, I did do a readathon with this book, or read along, whatever you want to call it, with my friends Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative, Una and Crypto from the Codex Cantina, and Kasha from Kasha and Bookland. And I'll put links to all their channels down in the description. I think at this point they've all done their videos for the book, all the stories. So if you're interested in seeing their perspectives and points of view on it, go check out their channels and see what they have to say. We had great discussions during the readathon, read along, and I've watched all their videos and they all had great videos on everything as well. But for this story, this is the story Rat, and at the beginning for this one we are following a man named Drew. Drew is an aspiring author. He's published a few short stories, but he's never been able to finish writing a novel. And at this point in his life, he has a great job. He's married, he loves his wife, he has kids. Sort of his last goal, his last ambition in his life right at this moment is he wants to write a novel. Above all else, he feels like he's sort of failed as an author in that writing career, and the final hurdle that he needs to get over to feel like he is a successful, accomplished writer is he wants to write a novel. He's tried to write novels in the past. I know one for sure, it might be more than that, but the last one epically failed. He just couldn't do it. He couldn't seem to get the words he wanted. He has this problem where he breaks it down so minutely between choosing this word or this word, and he just can't seem to get past that point. And with that last novel, he burned the manuscript and actually almost burnt down the house. He sort of had a mental breakdown. He hasn't really tried to write much since then. And one day he's sort of walking down the road and just has this epiphany, like a lightning strike, and this idea for this novel just pops into his head. It's perfect. It already has character names and plot and the name of the location and all this kind of stuff, and it just almost kind of floors him. And he wants to write this novel. He thinks he can do it now. The idea is perfect. It's already in his head. All he has to basically do is put pen to paper, and it's just going to flow right out of him. He tells his wife about this idea. He tells his really good friend Al. He learns that Al actually has cancer. He seems to be doing better now, but he doesn't think that Al looks very good. And Al sort of, I think they work together. I can't remember for sure, but I think Drew is a professor or something like that, teaches creative writing or something along those lines. And Al worked in that field as well. And so he tells Al this, and he tells his wife this. And his wife doesn't really want him to do it. Drew is wanting to sort of get away and go up to his father's cabin. His father has passed away, so there's that theme of mortality coming back. Also that theme with Al having cancer and maybe not having long to live. That mortality theme has been in this book and other stories. But she doesn't want him to go up there because of what happened last time. She's afraid he might not be able to finish and maybe have another breakdown, be up there by himself. And he sort of just ignores his wife. He doesn't listen to her wants and needs, and is basically putting everything on this novel. The novel is the most important thing to him. So they sort of have a fight, and he decides to go anyway, to take about 2 or 3 weeks away from his wife and family to bang out as much of this novel as he can. And in this book, it mentions Derry, which is the town in the book It. It also, I think he goes to TR90. He either goes there or he drives through it. But TR90 is an unincorporated township that I think Stephen King made up. It's part of his universe. I don't think it's a real place. But that has been mentioned in Under the Dome, Cell, Bag of Bones, and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. So this story is connected to Stephen King's broader universe. Once Drew gets up there, he goes to this little mom and pop shop to get food and supplies and whatnot, and he ends up shaking the owner's hand. The owner is sick, sort of blowing his nose. He says it's just allergies, but they shake hands anyway. Drew doesn't really think anything of it and gets his supplies and goes on and heads up to the cabin. He starts working on the novel, starts writing it. It's going great. He's getting like 15, 12 pages a day or so, and he's never written that well before. It's just flowing right out of him. And he's up there for a while, and then slowly it starts to, his page count every day starts to slow down some. He's sort of starting to get these same issues he had before about should he choose this word or this word, which one's going to sound better, sort of starting to get stuck. On top of that, he starts to not feel well. He starts to sort of feel sick, and he thinks he shouldn't have shaken that guy's hand. He thinks that guy made him sick. So he goes back down to the store to get some medicine for himself. It's a woman in there now, and she actually tells him that the former owner, he actually died. He had the flu, and he was just sort of too stubborn, too manly to go to the doctor, and it ended up killing him. So now Drew's worried he's going to get really sick. He buys some medicine. I don't remember what it was called exactly, but he buys like Dr. King's cough powder or something like that, which I thought was a funny little nod to Stephen King. This book is about a struggling writer. Stephen King has written a book called On Writing before to sort of help with that. And I feel like this is a more narrative version of On Writing. And you go to Dr. King to help your writing. I just thought that was sort of funny. But anyway, he heads back up to, or the cashier, she actually tells him there's a really bad storm coming. You know, it's going to be, the temperature's going to drop a lot. It's going to be a lot of rain and hail and whatnot. He goes back up there anyway, and his wife calls him. She wants him to come home because this bad storm is coming. Again, he ignores her, decides to stay. The storm hits, and by the time Drew decides he should have gone home, it's too late. He just has to sort of sit here now and write it out. The storm hits, it knocks a tree down and destroys a shed outside. And a little bit after that, he hears this scratching at the cabin door. He goes to open the door and finds this rat laying on the porch. Looks like it's been injured. Maybe it was in the shed and was crushed when it was hit by the tree. He decides he's going to kill it, and then he decides not to. He brings the rat in, sets it in front of the fireplace, and then sort of falls asleep. And he's got fever now and stuff. He's really pretty sick. When he wakes up, the rat is nowhere to be seen, and it's actually found sitting near his typewriter on top of all the pages that he's already written for his book. The rat says that he knows that Drew's starting to have trouble again. He's not going to be able to finish the novel, but the rat can basically grant him a wish and have him complete the novel, but in return, someone that Drew knows is going to have to die. At first, Drew doesn't want to agree to it. He doesn't want his wife or kids or anything to die. But the rat says, no, I want Al to die. And Drew thinks Al, he has cancer. He's probably going to die anyway. So he's okay with that sacrifice. He agrees to it. And then the writing gets better and better. He starts to get into the flow of it again. And he eventually does complete the novel. He does get over his sickness. He gets back home to his wife and kids and is able to finish the novel. When he finishes the novel, he thinks Al is basically going to die as soon as it's done. He doesn't, and it might be, I can't remember for sure, it's a couple weeks later, a couple months later. The book is actually picked up. The book he was writing, it was a Western called Bitter River, and it does have a little sections of the actual Western part in here, which was a pretty cool addition to the story. But everything seems to be good. He sold the story for like $300,000. He finally completed his novel. Al, nothing bad happened to him. And then one day he gets a call saying that Al and his wife were in this horrible car wreck, and they did both die. And he just feels horrible about it, that the guilt, that he thinks he was responsible for it in some way, making that bargain with the rat. And we had a lot of discussion about in the read along if the rat was real, if it was just, if he was delirious and he was just feverish and thinking it all up in his mind. Because it does say that there is a toy rat at the cabin that he comes across. So maybe he saw that and just, his mind was being feverish and stuff and just imagined it. Myself, I think the rat was real because after he's home and he's not sick anymore and stuff, he does see the rat again at the end and has one final encounter with him. And the way it ends, it makes it seem like the rat hasn't fully left him alone yet. It will be returning. But the sort of the theme here is I feel like, he got what he wanted. He got his novel written, but at what cost did it do to him? Whether the rat was real or not, I lean towards it being real. I don't think it was necessarily a real rat, but I do think he really did see a rat, whatever it was, taking on the form of a rat and talking to him. I don't know if the rat was responsible for the death of Al, but I feel like Drew did feel a little bit guilty about it, and it sort of tainted and ruined this whole experience that he had been striving for. He had been wanting to write a novel and failed, and he finally achieved this goal, his lifelong goal, and it's tainted by this rat and the death of his friend. I feel like it sort of ruined the whole experience for him, sort of became a bitter pill to swallow, hence the name Bitter River. I think that name was specifically chosen for that reason. The whole experience now has become bitter to him, and it's sort of the money doesn't buy happiness. The money and the new car and stuff that he gets from the book are not going to bring his friend back, are not going to change his feelings on the book experience. It's not going to make him like it anymore now that this awful thing has happened to him. So I do feel like he got a little bit of comeuppance, if you will, having this whole experience that he strived and struggled to try to achieve. He finally did it. He was so happy, and it was all ruined because of this deal he made, this bargain he made with this rat. Overall, I did enjoy this story, but it is my least favorite story in the collection. I still did enjoy it. And in the afterword or whatever, Stephen King does mention that he sort of wanted to write a malign fairy tale, which is sort of what this is about, and that he wanted to sort of base it on the mysteries of the imagination. Where do our thoughts come from, our ideas? That lightning struck Drew, and he had this instant idea for this wonderful story he wanted to write with all these characters and stuff. And just, where does that come from? Where do all these ideas and, for books and movies and music and all that, where does that all come from? Sort of this mysterious, void beyond, where is all that coming from? It's just sort of interesting to think about, where do all these great, fun, entertaining ideas come from within our imagination? But anyway, that's all I really have to say about it. Again, I did like this story. I'll still give it 4 stars, even though I didn't like it as much as the other 3 stories in the book. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this new collection. It's got great stories in it. They're less on the horror than a lot of other Stephen King stuff, more literary take with bits of supernatural and horror here and there. But overall, I still really enjoyed the collection as a whole. But that's all I have for you guys today. So thanks for spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.